And after this, here Sam decides to bring his rook to g1. This is because he wants to play g4, and maybe in future he can also push this h-pawn so that he can launch an attack towards this king side. And after this, c6 by Gukesh, opening the diagonal for this queen. Maybe this queen can go to this c7 square or maybe on this a5 square. And after this, here white immediately goes for g4. He is preparing for g5, which attacks this knight, so that's why here Gukesh instantly pushed h6. And here you can see that white is preparing to castle long side, but here instead of going to d2, here white can also consider this move g5, attacking this knight. And suppose if takes, now white has the option to capture this g5 pawn either with the knight, the bishop, or by the rook. And obviously we need someone on this first rank who can guard our king, so capturing this pawn with the rook will not make any sense. So that's why capturing the pawn by the knight might be the better option, because this bishop is guarding this d4 pawn. So after knight takes g5, but bro, black can actually capture our h2 pawn. But guys, suppose if he captured, now white can go for queen to f3, and in the next move this queen will go to this g3 square, which attacks this rook. So that's why black will obviously brings back his rook to h8, but now white can attack the center by pushing d5. And here the best move for black is to play bishop to b7 so that he can guard the center. But if black decides to capture this d5 pawn, that will be a huge mistake. This is because simply knight takes d5, attacking this queen, and obviously black can't capture this knight due to queen takes h7 threat. So that's why black has to move his queen. And suppose if he gives a check, but simply bishop to d2, attacking this queen again. But after queen to d8, and finally bishop takes b5, and clearly you can see that white is winning. Okay, so in the actual game, after queen to d2, it's better for black to focus on development, but here he made a mistake, or we can say that an inaccuracy, by capturing this pawn on d4. This is because after knight takes d4, in the next move you can see that white is going to push this f pawn, and white has almost covered the whole center and is in a very strong position. And as you can see, instead of knight to e5, here black must consider this move, which is rook to b8, and then black can go for b4, which attacks this knight. Okay, so now white moves according to his plan. He attacks this knight, and after this Gukesh brings his knight to c4, attacking this queen. But suppose instead of knight to c4, what will happen if black captured this g4 pawn? But guys, if this happens, now in this position white can actually sacrifice his knight by knight takes c6, and here black cannot capture this knight due to bishop takes b5, and black has to lose his queen. So that's why he decides to bring his knight to c4. And now here white can actually go for e5. This is because suppose if he takes, then after takes, now this knight is under attack, so that's why queen takes e5. And you can see that now black is threatening to capture this g4 pawn by the bishop, so that's why here it's important for white to go for castle. And now you can see that black is threatening to capture this c6 pawn by the knight. And to defend this, suppose if he brings his bishop to d7, but now comes rook at g goes to e1, threatening to pin this queen and this king. And to defend this, if black placed his bishop to e7, now white can capture this h6 pawn by bishop takes h6, creating a discover attack to this queen. And after this queen moves to c5, simply bishop takes g7, and clearly you can see that white is winning. Okay, so in the actual game, here white decides to bring his knight to f5, and you can see that maybe he wants to castle in the next move, so that he can create immense pressure to this towards this d6 pawn. And here white is preparing to play e5. And suppose if black captured this b2 pawn by his rook, now comes e5, attacking this knight. And if black tries to ruin the pawn structure by capturing this, but simply takes, and after takes, now comes now knight to d7, but now white can push his e pawn further, attacking this knight again. And after takes, and clearly you can see that in the next move white is going to bring his queen to e2, and maybe in h5, and you can see that this is completely winning for white. So that's why in the actual game, after bishop to d4, here Gukesh brings his bishop to e6. And now it's better for black to play rook to d8, so that he can pin this bishop. But here Gukesh made a mistake by playing queen to a5. This is a mistake because, as you can see, previously this queen on b6 was targeting the important and this weak f2 pawn. But after going to a5, as you can see, now this b2 pawn is quite safe. So that's why here Sam instantly goes for castling. But guys, you might be shocked that in this position Gukesh shocked everyone by sacrificing his rook by rook takes b2. And obviously black can't capture this rook. This is because bishop takes a3 check, and obviously if king to b1, then white will get checkmated by queen to b4 check, and then queen to a2 mate. So that's why the only move for white is to go through these squares, and clearly you can see that now black is winning. So that's why after seeing this, here Sam decides to bring to capture this knight, so that he can ruin this pawn structure. A good move by Sam. As you can see, white is threatening to mate on d7, and black can't do by this bishop because this is already pinned by this rook. So that's why here Gukesh brings back his rook to b7. But guys, in this position, Sam decides to sacrifice his rook by rook takes e6. What a beautiful move by Sam. This is because of the following moves. And you can see that after this king moves, white will gain back his piece. And but here guys, here white have option to capture this rook. This is because now this is already winning, and suppose if he captured this rook, now after this white can bring his king further, and suppose if king to g4, knight to a4, okay, king to f4, knight to b6 attacking this pawn, king to e4, knight takes c4, a4, king to c3. Here you can see he wants to capture this pawn, but king to d5, king to b4, c5 check, king to b5, king to d4, knight to a3, king to d5, and now white can capture this pawn, but c4 if, then king to b4, c3, king takes c3, and clearly you can see that this is completely winning for white, because this pawn because white is a knight up. Okay, but in the actual game after rook to h4, here white decides to give a check, which is an inaccuracy, but this is also winning. And in this position, the final move by Sham is knight to b6. And in this position, Gukesh resigned. This is because now you can see that no one can protect this c4 pawn. Please like and hype this video, and also make sure to subscribe to this channel. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.